204, expressing the sense of Congress that an appropriate site on Chaplain's Hill and Arlington National Cemetery should be provided for a memorial marker to honor the memory of the Jewish chaplains who died while on active duty in the armed forces of the United States.
Without objection, the committee is discharged. The Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the Murray Amendment, which is at the desk, be agreed to, the concurrent resolution as amended be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements relating to the matter be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask the President of the quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. President, I ask that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Help Committee be discharged from further consideration of S-Res 172 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration.
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 172, recognizing the importance of cancer research and so forth and for other purposes.
Without objection, the committee is discharged. The Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, I further ask that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and that any statements related to the measure be printed in the record at the appropriate place.
Without objection.
I ask consent that Senator Cardin be added as a co-sponsor.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to S-Res 203, submitted earlier today.
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 203, recognizing National Foster Care Month and so forth and for other purposes.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements relating to the matter be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to S-Res 204, submitted earlier today.
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 204, designating June 7, 2011 as National Hunger Awareness Day.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any statements be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I understand that S1125, introduced earlier today by Senator Leahy, is at the desk, and I ask for its first reading.
Clerk will report.
S1125, a bill to improve national security letters the authorities under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, and for other purposes.
I'll ask for its second reading, Mr. President, and object to my own request.
Objection is heard. The bill will be read for a second time on the next legislative day.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the appointments at the desk appear separately in the record as if made by the Chair.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that from Friday, May 27th through Friday, June 3rd, the President of the Senate, the President pro temp, and the majority and minority leaders be authorized to make appointments to commissions, committees, boards, conferences, or interparliamentary conferences authorized by law by concurrent action of the two houses or by order of the Senate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that from Thursday, May 26th through Friday, June 3rd, the Majority Leader, Senator Klobuchar, and Senator Webb be authorized to sign duly enrolled bills or joint resolutions.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Mr. President?
Senator from Minnesota.
Mr. President, I ask a quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nominations. Calendar number 49, 97, 106, 107, 111, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160, 161, 162, 163, 164, 165, 166, 167, 168. And nominations placed on the Secretary's desk in the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Foreign Service, Marine Corps, Navy, and Public Health Service, with the exception of Kenya P. Altamirano, Rebecca M. Keibel, Timothy N. Onsario, Justin R. Plott, Brandy Torres, that the nominations be confirmed en bloc, the motions to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order to any of the nominations, that any statements related to the nominations be printed in the record, that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate resume legislative session.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 9:30 a.m. on Friday, May 27th for a pro forma session only with no business conducted, and that when the Senate adjourns on Friday, May 27th, it stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, May 31st for a pro forma session only with no business conducted. That when the Senate adjourns on Tuesday, May 31st, it stand adjourned until 10:30 a.m. on Friday, June 3rd for a pro forma session with no business conducted. And that when the Senate adjourns on Friday, June 3rd, it stand adjourned until 2 p.m. on Monday, June 6th. That following the prayer and pledge, the Journal of Proceedings be approved to date, the morning hour be deemed expired, the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day. That following any leader remarks, the Senate be in a period of morning business until 4:30 p.m., with senators permitted to speak up to 10 minutes each. Finally, that at 4:30 p.m., the Senate proceed to executive session under the previous order.
Without objection.
Mr. President, the first roll call vote when we return will be at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, June 6th. That vote will be on the motion to invoke cloture on the nomination of Donald Verrilli to be Solicitor General of the United States. Mr. President, if there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate will stand adjourned until May 27th, Friday, 9:30 a.m.
So the Senate's gavelled out, but earlier today, members passed a measure that extends certain Patriot Act provisions. The vote was 72 to 23.